I had to think about this for a minute, but it didn't take me long to come to a conclusion, because I think the conclusion is inescapable, in fact, and the answer is ESFJ. ESFJ, so why is ESFJ the worst match for INFJs, the type that is least compatible with INFJs? Of course, you can start with the whole conception of the extroverted sensor. I think that once you're at the level of the extroverted sensor, you are talking about a type that is doubly incompatible with the INFJ. First of all, because you're going to be talking about people who are quite grounded and sensory indeed, who are this worldly. I think this is a really good way to put the point. Extroverted sensors are this worldly in two ways. They are projecting their personality onto the world, that's extroversion, and they are grounded in the world through sensing, right? So they are this worldly, they are in the world. Now, what do we know about INFJs? What we know about INFJs is that they are alienated from external reality, they are distrustful of external reality, they tend to withdraw from external reality to find comfort in their internal NI world. I talk about a worldview for NI types, and I think that the more I think about it, the more we need to start thinking of NI, and particularly NI dominance, in terms of an alternate world. I think there are just two worlds at play in the life of an INFJ, and I'm going to make more videos about this in future. But what I mean to say is that the this worldly versus the other worldly is the opposition between the INFJ and perhaps the IN in general with the extroverted sensor. Now, of course, there's different kinds of extroverted sensors. There's four of them, namely ESTP, ESTJ, ESFJ, and ESFP. So why do I think that ESFJ is the one that's least compatible with INFJ, in fact, the worst match for an INFJ? Well, I mean, first of all, with the ESTP, first thing we need to mention is ESTPs have all functions in common with INFJs. It's true that SE dominance can be a little bit overbearing for INFJs, and there are probably INFJs who will say that ESTPs are the worst match for them. I think that if there is a competition between those four ES types, the competition will be between ESFJ and ESTP. However, it's enough for an ESTP to be relatively well balanced, and you can have a nice time with them. Another aspect that you need to have in mind, and this will be something that ESFPs have even more of, is that because ESTPs are not leading with FE, they don't do a lot of peer pressuring, and they don't expect you to participate in conversations that you're not interested in, that they might create a context that is not really resonant with you in terms of their interest, in terms of their really big focus on sensation, in terms of, you know, the fact that they're kind of in your face. But at least they won't solicit. They will just solicit that you're there and vaguely acquiesce in whatever they're talking about if needed. But usually they will leave you be, right? They won't touch the integrity of your being. You might not have a great time with some ESTPs, but they won't touch the integrity of your being. It's the same with ESFPs, even more so, because FI, although FI, you know, we're talking about here a function that we don't have, has this virtue that it tends to leave the integrity of other people's being, including the being of FE users. And INFJs will like that, particularly in the context of an extrovert sensor discourse that they don't resonate with. As long as it doesn't impinge on their being, they can deal with it. Now, for ESTJ versus ESFJ, again, we're talking, you know, you could argue, well, okay, ESTJs are worse. Fewer functions in common, T dominance. How is an INFJ going to manage that? Well, the fact of the matter is that if you are in a conversation that you have very little interest in, that you feel like people are making noise with their mouths, and it's going on, and you don't really want to get involved, you want to be out of here. Well, TE dominance, it is a lot less likely to impose that on you, because TE tends to be more interested in things than in, you know, people, and so a TE dominance is not likely to have this like very long conversations that very gossipy and things like that. You'll tend to talk about more impersonal things or systems or processes, and it's much easier to deal with. And again, it doesn't impinge on the integrity of your being. Yeah, sure, it could be overbearing, could be this, could be that. But the problem with the ESFJ is it has all the negative, again, we're talking, there's always going to be exceptions among ESFJs, but we're talking about a type that is going to solicit you. It's going to want you to be involved, and that's in the nature of FE dominance. If that were accompanied with an I, you might deal with it, but so you're likely, in this case, there's no NI. So you're likely to be embarked on a part of a conversation, part of a discourse that you don't want to be a part of, but the ESFJ is in a sense telling you, you better be a part of it, and peer pressure you if needed if you're showing reticence, and punish you socially if you continue showing reticence. And that's why I think ultimately the ESFJ is the most removed in terms of compatibility with the INFJ. Extroverted sensor who demands of you that you be on the wavelength. You're not allowed to just exist alongside them. If you're in their vicinity, you have to conform. There's this requirement for conformity. So this extra layer of pressure that makes it doubly difficult for INFJs, and indeed, I believe, their worst match. So I hope that video was interesting to you or useful. Don't forget that I have written 2 books on the INFJ personality: The Ecstatic Soul, which looks at the detail of INFJ consciousness. The Infinite Soul is my new book. Guys, if you have read the book, if you've purchased it, loved it, please leave a review. It really helps with the referencing on Amazon. So if you haven't done that, it takes a few minutes of your time. It really, really helps me. So please consider leaving a review. If you haven't got the book yet, consider getting it. INFJ Life in the Modern World looks at the detail of how to lead a purposeful, meaningful, and rich life as an INFJ in a world today that is often hostile to us. So that's the Infinite Soul. I also have a Patreon link down there. Thank you so much to my new supporters. It helps me keeping the channel going. I always insist on this in my videos. Link is below on Patreon. You can interact with me. You can do other things. See you soon, guys. Take care.